Hi, this is Mr. Spradlin, and this week we'll be making a Cannonball game in Scratch. This game will have several different parts to it. Let's go ahead and take a look at these, and then we'll get started on the details. First of all, the cannon starts in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. There's up arrows and right arrows, and these arrows will adjust your upwards and right velocity. Now, when you raise the up velocity, your right velocity decreases, and vice versa. Press the spacebar to fire the cannon, and it shoots across the screen and leaves a trail behind so you can see where it went. You can then restart, change your velocities, and fire again. This is a good starting point for a game like Worms Armageddon or Scorched Earth or things like that. Let's go ahead and look at some of the details now. For starters, you're going to need 3 sprites: a cannonball, an up arrow, and a right arrow. Go ahead and make these, and then we'll add the code to them in just a few minutes. In the Variables tab, you're also going to need 2 variables, one for each component of your velocity. I've called mine VRight and VUp. You can call yours whatever you want, but I recommend a name that makes sense for what they are. Go ahead and make these, and we're going to use these in our code in just a minute. To get started on our code, we're going to need to do some initialization. The first thing we should do is the cannonball. So I'll choose the cannonball sprite, and I'll start getting set up. I'll start off with the green flag block, and then I want to set my variables to their initial spots. I'll get 2 of these set blocks from the Variables tab, one for VUp and one for VRight. To start us off, I'll set each of them to 10. We might change these as time goes on, but this will be an okay value to start with. Next, I want to put the cannonball in its initial position. In this case, I have it down here in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, and that corresponds right here to x minus 225 and y minus 166. Your numbers might vary a bit, and that's fine. I'll grab this go-to block right here, which Scratch sets up already with the current location. If it's not set up, go ahead and type the numbers in there, but it should be. This should get everything set up in the right spot with the right values, so that when we press the green flag button, we're all ready to go. Now that our initialization is taken care of, let's go ahead and work on the arrows. I'll do the up arrow first. When I press the up arrow, I want VUp to increase and VRight to decrease. I'll start off in the control section with a when the up arrow is clicked. I don't want to get this confused with when the up arrow key is pressed. That's a whole different thing. That's the up arrow on your keyboard. I want to press the red arrow on my stage here to make this happen. When the up arrow is clicked, I want to make VUp increase, and I want to make VRight decrease. So I'll get a couple of change blocks. I'm going to change VUp by +1. I'll change VRight by -1. That'll make VUp go up, it'll make VRight go down. You'll do something very, very similar on the right arrow. You just make VRight go up and VUp go down. It gets a little confusing with all the ups and downs, but I think you can keep it straight. One thing you might notice when testing is that if you click the arrows too quickly, it just opens the scripts instead of actually running the code. This is intentional. This is part of the way that Scratch works. But what you can do to get around this is go into presentation mode. This button here on the far right hand side of the Scratch window will put you in presentation mode. And when you're in presentation mode, things get bigger and they don't fit very well on my window, but that's okay. But you can click the arrow as fast as you want and no problems happen. Just click this curved arrow right here to get back out of presentation mode again and get back to normal. Once you have both of the arrows set up so that they're increasing and decreasing your 2 velocity variables, we're ready to fire the cannonball. Switch back to the cannonball sprite, go to Control, and let's get this when the space key is pressed starter block. I want to fire the cannon with the space bar. What I'm going to do for this is a simple way. I'll just get a forever, and I'll put my code inside that. And then again, just for simplicity, I'm going to get a couple of change blocks. Change x by something and change y by something. This way I can use the right and the up velocity together. I'll switch to variables and I'll change x by v right and I'll change y by v up. Whenever the cannonball makes a move, which is going to happen over and over and over again very quickly, the cannonball will move to the right by v right and it'll move up by v up. Let's take a look and see how this works. Well, that wasn't great, was it? The cannonball stair-stepped its way upwards and went off to the right. On yours, you don't have a stair-stepping thing yet. You don't have a line on there, and that's fine. We're going to add that a little bit later. But I have it on mine just so we can see what happened. It moves pretty quickly. I'll hit stop, green flag, and we'll take another look. I have the cannonball moving upwards, which is good, and I have it moving to the right, which is good, but it never comes back down. We need to put some gravity in here. The easiest way to do that would be to make my V up change over time. At each step of the process, I'm going to reduce V up by 1. This way, V up will start at, say, 10, and then be 9, and 8, and 7, and so forth until it goes into the negatives and starts heading back downwards again. I'll hit my green flag. To restart, I'll hit spacebar, and there's a much different movement there. Now the cannonball bounced upwards and down and rolled across to the far edge. You can try this with a few different settings and change those by pressing the red arrows, but I think what we need to do really is increase our total amount of power to play with. And I'm going to do that by changing the initialization so that V up starts at 20 and V right starts at 10. This is going to give the ball a little bit more upwards oomph when it fires. Let's try that and see how that looks. That's a lot better. We have a nice arc there where the ball goes up, we can see it come back down again, and it fills the screen nicely. That's a pretty good arc. We do still have some stair-stepping motion going on, but we can address that in a little while. The next thing that we'll do is get those neat blue lines to work. But first I need to talk about the pen. Every sprite in Scratch has a pen. Now this pen can be up, like it is here, or down, like here, up and down. By default, every sprite's pen is up, and when it moves, nothing happens. But if the sprite puts his pen down and then moves, he'll leave a line behind, wherever he goes. Pen up, no line. Pen down, there's a line. Every single sprite has a pen, but by default, they're always in the up position. What we're going to do, we're going to use the cannonball's pen in the down position, so that wherever the cannonball moves, it will leave a trail behind. All of the pen controls are over here in the pen category. There's a clear, which will clear the screen of all the pen marks. There's a pen down and pen up to raise the pen up and down. Remember, down is writing, up is off the paper, not writing. That's the default. You can set the pen color to whatever color you like. Change the pen color with your code. Set the pen color with your code to any number in there. All kinds of fun stuff you can do with the pen. One last thing I want to point out in the pen section is the stamp. And what stamp will do is it will stamp a copy of the sprite on the stage, and kind of like a rubber stamp sort of thing. You can try that and experiment with it, see what you think. We're not going to use it for this one, but it can be kind of fun. Anyway, what I want to do, I want to add some pen controls to the cannonball. That way the cannonball will leave a trail behind. So what I need to do is when the space bar is pressed, put the pen down. I don't want to put this inside the forever loop because I only want to put the pen down once. Once it's down, it stays down until I pick it back up again. So just once is enough. When the space bar is pressed, put the pen down and then move. Let's try that. There's my trail, just like I needed. Now, if you're getting the stair-stepping motion, like I am here, this is because we're changing the X first and then the Y. So we're making two movements, one for the X, one for the Y, one for the X, one for the Y. Now to us it looks fine, but when you make the trail, you can see how it is actually following a zigzag pattern. We can make that more smooth. and I'll leave that as kind of a challenge to you. I'll show you the blocks that you'll need for it. You're going to want to go to X and Y. This will take you directly to a specific X and Y location, but it will, as you move through it, leave a pen line behind. You're going to need to know where you're starting at. So there's your X position, your Y position variables. This is off the screen, but they're just in the very bottom of the motion section. You'll also need some operators. A couple of these plus ones should be just fine. And then finally you'll need variables. You're going to want the current values of V right and V up. I'll leave it up to you to assemble this however you think it should go. But with this one go to X and Y block, you're going to replace the change X and the change Y. So both of these two blocks will go out, this block will go in, once you assemble it with all these other pieces. Once you've finished the Cannonball game, so that it's all working, I want you to make another sprite, a target, this bullseye right here. And this target here should appear somewhere at random on the screen. Could be high, could be low, could be left, could be right, could be anywhere. And then I want you to try to hit the target with the cannonball. If you hit it, it disappears and goes somewhere else. If not, it should stay there and let you keep trying. Keep those trails there, that way you can keep adjusting your height and your distance. That way you can hit it better. But see if you can make this nice little target practice game by using this cannonball as a starter. Have a good time with that, and if there's any questions, please give me a holler. See you next time.